Hi guys, it's on the hour, so I'm going to get started. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar on managing constraints. It's the latest webinar in the latest episode in the series of Accelerate Agile by agilecoach.com.au. This might be a quick one today. It's really about project management. And I'm going to compare project management in a traditional sense and what project managers are trained to do, and how it operates in an agile environment and the small differences. But I'm also going to focus a lot on the similarities and what needs to be managed and what we can fix. And I'm calling those things constraints. So you don't need to manage things that aren't constrained, right? It's just the way it is. So I've called it managing constraints, but it's really about what can project managers manage. And I'm focused on addressing this to project managers, but I'd encourage everybody just to listen in. I'm going to try and get through this in 5 minutes, and it's really going to really simplify the art of project management. Myself, 25 years in the game, I started off with Prince 2 as being the project methodology for 10 years at least I was working under before I started to learn some of the agile methodologies, and later became an agile coach. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all focus on one thing that's talked about a lot in the agile communities, and that's leadership. I'm talking about what leadership is and what management is, separating them just for a second or two, and then I'm going to talk about whereabouts this is relevant. Before talking about those constraints and really talking about how agile works differently to the traditional ways. So just before I jump into the leadership, then let's tackle topic number 2, which is where am I talking about this? This is project management, right? So this is about change delivery, whether it be tactical, strategical, small project, big project. I'm not talking about business as usual or operations. So if you have a project manager, or if you feel like some things aren't getting managed very well because it's not BA, so if you've got BAU or operations, things you have operational general managers who run those. If you're doing something extraordinary, you need a project manager. You need someone to manage it. So project manager will be brought in for that. Um, Now you've got these die-hard agile people who don't understand. I'll say don't understand. They don't respect the fact that there is a management function in organizations. And if it isn't your business as usual or your operations, project managers do fill that management side. You do have to hire people. You do have to keep an eye on the budgets. You do have to keep an eye on the times. You have to keep the whole business running. So project managers are very good at that. So let's go back to the leadership question. What I'm not going to cover today is leadership side of things. So when I talk about leaders and managers, I'm going to flick through this. Leaders have a role within the organization to lead people, to create the culture and the vision. Well, not only create the vision, but keep promoting that vision. And it's really people focused, making sure that the people's well-being's good and the development's there. That's good leadership. And it's different from being a good manager. So if you're a good manager, you're going to focus more on managing the business side of things or the project side of things. And there's really three things you want to focus on is time, budget, and activities. Are we being inefficient in our activities? And what's the time and budget? And am I being there's all the communication side and all the report writing, but really it's about making sure you're managing these three things. Now, both have one thing in common. I'm going to focus a lot on this. Is both leaders and managers focus on the outcomes, not the output, but the outcomes. What outcomes have we got to attain in this year or in this 3 year? What's the vision? What's the outcomes of the vision? So all of this, whether you're a leader or a manager, that's the bit that really brings you together is the outcomes. You should all be focused on the same thing. Sometimes a leader and manager are the same individual, even when they're not. You've got to be focused on the same outcomes, or else it's going to be chaos. I'm not going to talk about leadership. Different episode. Let's move those off this board. Let's not go down that route. Let's focus on management. And let's have a look at these cards. So I've got some cards on the wall here: time, budget, activities, and outcomes. And if I just put those all on the board, they're not actually all the same. They're not the same level. Outcomes are the big things that we're going to get out. Time, activities, and budget are the things that make up the outcome. So if I get my time, activities, and budget right, the outcomes will get delivered, assuming the leadership side's there and all the other things are equal. So if I'm a project manager, those are the things I'm going to focus on. So what do I do when it comes to managing time, activities, and budget? Well, what I do is I base them on what's my outcome, what's the acceptable quality of the outcome, and how do I manage these three things that can be constrained? Because that's why I call it managing constraints. These things are always constrained. You've never got enough time. Budget, you could always have more. Although if you're a business person, don't spend so much. And the activities are always you've got to do stuff. This is a basic business principle: time, money, get the activity right, sell it, make more money, do it again. That's a basic business. So that's what I learned in my business and management degree all those 20 years ago. It's simple. Every business is the same. The activities are always different depending on what you're outputting. But time plus budget plus some activities equals output. Sell, do the same thing again. So time and budget are on one side of the scales. Activities are on the other. So you spend the time, you spend the budget. The activities are on this. So more time, more budget, more activities you can get done. And you're always trying to get that just right. Spend time and budget and don't get a level of activities and the scales start to tip and you're not running a very good business. So you've got to keep it level all the time. So if you were to reduce the amount of time that's available, but the activities stay the same, what's likely to happen is your quality is going to suffer because things are going to be rushed and you're not going to get there. So it's not a good outcome. Your scales start to get unbalanced. Or if it turns out you've got the set time and budget and you think that's right, and the activities are actually much bigger and balloon out, it's the same thing. The quality of the outcome is not going to be good enough. It might not even be on time or budget, and that's not a good outcome either. So what the project manager's role is to manage the time, budget, and activities. And what traditionally that's meant is fixing them and making it difficult, dare I say, for people on the team to change them. So it's not a great, in my humble opinion, having been through waterfall and been through agile project management, it's not a great way to fix these things early on and then spend your next 75% of the time on the project trying to keep them static, because that's what management often is on fixed project management of waterfall. So what happens, in my humble opinion, is the quality suffers when you try to fix all three, and so it's not great. So agile just looks at this a little bit differently. So for those who are on the webinar, and I do record this, so if you're on the podcast listening afterwards, I've underlined the bold little because that is the secret to agile. If anyone tells you anything else, there are loads of different things in agile, but the main thing is make things small. Stop trying to do everything big and make things small and deliver incrementally. That's the beauty of agile. Excuse me. So same baseline. So we have to. So if you're an agile project manager, you've got the same cards on the wall. You can only manage time, activities, and budget, and you've still got outcomes to deliver. So if you're working agile, you've still got those, but we're going to manage them differently. Our scales are going to be totally different. What we are going to do in an agile way of working is we're going to fix our time and our budget. And this is often not understood. So I'm not talking a different language here. We are fixing our time. If you want to get something done on time, the only game in town is an agile way of working, not waterfall. And it's probably one of those big myths that gets spread around. Oh, we've got a fixed time project, so we have to run waterfall. No. Fixed time is an agile. It's an agile feature. So we fix time, we fix budget, and then we say for that fixed time and budget, we are going to target this outcome. Now, on slide 19, I've got that first, but that's not actually the slide that Agile works. This is a mistake in Agile, that what we do is we fix our outcomes to a time and budget. So we say, well, for $1 million, we will have all of these outcomes, and then what we'll do is we'll manage the activities on our scales. That's not really Agile. What we really want to be able to do is say, for the time and budget, we have got this group of outcomes, or for this time and budget, we've got this outcome. Now, a lot of the agile advocates will tell you, no, don't do that. You're restricting people. Well, yeah, to some extent, yes, but outcomes are only got so much value. So if you say, well, for all those outcomes, go deliver X, Y, and Z. Well, X might be worth a hell of a lot more than Z, but you might be spending all of the time and budget on Z. So by breaking the work down into all of the outcomes, you can start to put value against them and prioritize the outcomes of the highest value. Then you can manage the activities that need to be done for that outcome. So the agile way of working is you fix the time, you fix the budget for an outcome and make that outcome as small as possible. And then once you fix that, you manage the activities. And you allow those activities to do whatever the team wants to do as long as they're sticking to the time and budget of the outcome. And you can have those outcomes running at the same time. There's a bit of an art to it there. So you might have three outcomes. And yes, there might be a bit of slippage between the few, but that's the art of being a project manager. Okie dokie, so I'm going to jump over that. I'm going to go and review now what we've covered. So we focused on management, not leadership. There will be an episode on leadership in the future, but to be fair, agile communities talk a lot about the mindset of leadership. Um, the management in projects really needs to focus on time, budget, and activities with a goal to delivering outcomes. What we do in agile is we do lock our time and budget. The time being the incremental till the next increment plan, and the budget being what you're going to spend inside that increment. So really it only leaves activities to manage. Now, it's tempting to break down our activities and just manage all of those activities for all of our outcomes. But actually, the agile way of working is to focus on breaking down those outcomes and then manage the activities individually for each. So that's how we manage our constraints in an agile way of working. We focus on those three things, but we focus on breaking down those outcomes. Okie dokie, that's it. I did run through that really quickly. If you've got any questions, catch up with me on LinkedIn is a good way to communicate with me, or you can give me a call. If you go to my website, there's a phone number on there. You can give me a call. There is my website. I'll do a little bit of a plug. There are the previous episodes all on there. You can go through and you can see watch those, or you can subscribe to the podcast. You guys have a good day.